She doesn't ask anymore. She doesn't look over when your phone lights up. She doesn't question where you were or who you were with. No tension, no suspicion, no emotional spikes. And you feel relieved. Finally. Peace. Finally. Trust. Finally. The proof that the relationship has matured. That relief is misplaced. Because jealousy doesn't disappear when a woman feels safe. It disappears when she stops feeling invested. Men celebrate the wrong signal because they're wired to see less friction as progress. You assume calm means security. You assume silence means confidence. You assume her lack of reaction means she trusts you more than ever. But what you're actually watching may be something far colder. Indifference wears the same face as trust at first. Both are quiet. Both don't ask questions. Both don't react. The difference is invisible until it's irreversible. A woman who cares still monitors. Not obsessively, not irrationally, but emotionally. Jealousy is not weakness, it's evidence of attachment. It's the nervous system staying alert because something still matters. When that alert system shuts down completely, it isn't peace, it's withdrawal. She doesn't check because she no longer feels the need to protect the bond. She doesn't react because the outcome no longer threatens her identity. And you mistake that emotional absence for growth. Here's the line that flips everything you thought you understood. A woman doesn't stop getting jealous because she feels secure. She stops because she stops caring. That's why this moment is so dangerous. Because it feels like success. It feels like relief. It feels like you finally did something right. But the most dangerous phase of a marriage isn't when emotions run hot. It's when they go quiet and you mistake emotional death for emotional maturity. Jealousy exists because attachment exists. Strip away the social shame around the word, and what you're left with isn't insecurity. It's investment. Jealousy requires emotional risk. You don't feel it unless something is on the line. You don't monitor what you don't care about. You don't react to what wouldn't hurt to lose. That's why jealousy only lives where desire is still alive. Not obsession. Desire. The kind that binds identity to outcome. A woman who is emotionally attached is still staking something. Her sense of self is connected to the bond. That connection creates sensitivity, awareness, a low-level alert system that stays online because the relationship still matters. Jealousy is the tax paid on emotional attachment. You don't pay taxes on abandoned property. You pay them on what you still claim ownership over. This is where men misunderstand the mechanism. They treat jealousy as immaturity instead of information. They assume confidence means indifference. But indifference is not confidence, it's disengagement. Confidence still protects what it values. A woman who fears loss still checks, still reacts, still adjusts. Not because she's weak, but because she's invested. Monitoring is not control, it's claim. It says, this matters enough to track. When attachment fades, fear of loss fades with it. And when fear of loss disappears, monitoring shuts down. No questions, no reactions, no emotional corrections. That silence isn't peace, it's vacancy. No attachment means no jealousy. No fear of loss means no vigilance. No vigilance means no emotional claim. The bond isn't being protected anymore because it's no longer being inhabited. This matters because men are taught to suppress emotional data in favor of structure. As long as the relationship looks calm, you assume it's healthy. But emotional systems don't signal collapse with noise. they signal it with shutdown. Jealousy isn't a flaw to eliminate at all costs. It's a pulse. And like any pulse, its absence isn't proof of health. It's proof of absence. A woman who cares still reacts because the outcome still threatens her. A woman who's done doesn't react because nothing is at stake anymore. And if you celebrate the disappearance of jealousy without asking why it disappeared, you risk confusing emotional withdrawal for emotional maturity. That's the mistake that costs men the relationship long before the relationship officially ends. Men celebrate calm because calm feels like success. You were trained to believe that relationships improve when friction disappears. Less conflict means progress. Less emotion means maturity. Less questioning means trust has finally been earned. So when the noise stops, you relax. You stop scanning. You stop listening beneath the surface. You assume the hard part is over. That assumption is where the misread begins. Male conditioning rewards stability over sensitivity. You're taught to fix problems, not read emotional undercurrents. If there's no argument to resolve, no complaint to address, no demand to respond to, you conclude that the system is working. Calm feels efficient, predictable, safe. And because chaos used to signal danger, its absence feels like peace. But emotional reality doesn't follow mechanical logic. Silence doesn't always mean harmony. Sometimes it means disengagement has already occurred. Here's the truth that clashes with male instinct. Men celebrate calm. Women often use calm to exit quietly, not out of malice, but out of strategy. Calm reduces resistance. Calm avoids confrontation. Calm allows emotional withdrawal without triggering alarm. When she stops questioning you, stops reacting, stops correcting the relationship, it doesn't mean she trusts you more. It often means she's stopped negotiating the bond altogether. Negotiation only happens when the outcome still matters. This is why indifference looks identical to trust until it's too late. Both are quiet. Both don't monitor. Both don't react. The difference isn't visible in behavior, it's visible in intent. Trust stays engaged. Indifference disengages. Trust still has emotional stakes. Indifference has already written them off. But because men are trained to read reduced emotion as relief, they mistake emotional flatness for emotional security. You don't notice that her calm lacks warmth, that conversations feel procedural, that curiosity has vanished. You hear fewer questions and think, she finally feels safe. In reality, safety no longer requires you. That's the part men aren't taught to recognize. A woman who's invested still risks emotion. A woman who's exiting conserves it. The misread isn't stupidity, it's pattern recognition trained in the wrong environment. You learned that noise equals threat. But in relationships, silence is often the real signal. And when you celebrate calm without checking what kind of calm it is, you end up guarding peace while connection quietly dies underneath it. The transition phase doesn't announce itself. There's no fight, no accusation, no emotional spike to react to. That's why men almost never detect it. What changes isn't the structure of the relationship, it's the temperature. Jealousy cools into neutrality. Questions disappear into silence. Emotional spikes flatten into something polite and distant. Nothing feels wrong enough to confront. And that's exactly why it's dangerous. At first, the shift feels like relief. She doesn't ask who you're texting anymore. She doesn't react to stories that once would have sparked emotion. She doesn't correct, probe, or challenge the bond. You assume she's grown, that she trusts you now, that the relationship has matured. But jealousy doesn't fade into trust. It fades into detachment. Trust still has heat. Detachment doesn't. It conserves energy. It stops investing. This phase is marked by emotional flatness, not hostility. Conversations become neutral, efficient, uncharged. There's no curiosity pulling things forward, no tension shaping desire. She listens without leaning in, responds without revealing anything back. You mistake this emotional neutrality for peace because nothing is demanding your attention anymore. But peace that requires emotional absence isn't peace, it's shutdown. Men miss this phase because there are no arguments, no accusations, no visible threat, nothing to fix. And men are fixers. You're wired to respond to friction, not absence. So when friction disappears, you stand down. You stop checking. You stop reading the room. You assume the system is stable because it's quiet. Meanwhile, she's conserving emotional resources, not spending them on the bond. This is the most deceptive stage of all. The relationship hasn't ended, but it's no longer being protected. Jealousy was the last line of emotional defense. When it disappears completely, it means the outcome no longer feels personal. Loss no longer threatens identity. And once that happens, the bond exists out of habit, not attachment. You don't feel urgency here because nothing hurts yet. That's why men miss it. But by the time pain arrives, the transition is complete. What you experience as a sudden collapse was actually a slow emotional withdrawal disguised as calm. And if you don't understand this phase, you'll keep mistaking emotional death for emotional maturity until there's nothing left to revive. This is where men get trapped by language. You listen to the words instead of decoding the behavior underneath them. She says, "I don't care who texts you." And you hear freedom, trust, maturity. What she's actually saying is far colder. You're no longer relevant to my identity. Your actions no longer register as threats because the bond is no longer tied to who she believes she is. Jealousy disappears not because confidence appeared, but because emotional ownership expired. When she says, "Do what you want," it doesn't mean permission. It means resignation. It's the sound of someone emotionally clocking out. There's no warning in the tone, because warning would imply investment. She isn't trying to correct the relationship anymore. She's conserving energy. Correction requires hope. Resignation doesn't. And hope is the first thing that dies before a relationship does. The most telling signal is the lack of reaction. Not anger, not sadness, nothing. You come home late. No response. You mention another woman. No shift. You pull away slightly. No correction. Men misread this as strength, as emotional security. But lack of reaction equals lack of emotional stake. You don't react to outcomes you've already accepted. You don't protect territory you've mentally abandoned. Here's the hard line men avoid, because it contradicts everything they were taught. The opposite of jealousy isn't confidence. It's emotional withdrawal. Confidence still claims. Confidence still invests. Confidence still responds when something threatens what it values. Withdrawal doesn't argue. It doesn't protest. It doesn't compete. It simply stops participating. This is why chasing reassurance here backfires. You ask, "Are you okay?" she says. I'm fine. And she means it not because things are good, but because she's already detached. You try to provoke emotion, hoping jealousy will return as proof of care, but you can't resurrect investment by demanding reaction. Reaction only comes from attachment, and attachment has already been quietly removed. Men lose ground here because they keep listening to the words instead of reading the absence behind them. The relationship hasn't become more secure. It's become less inhabited. She isn't calm because she trusts you. She's calm because she's no longer emotionally inside the outcome. And once you understand that, the silence stops feeling peaceful. It starts sounding like distance. Confrontation feels like strength to men because it creates motion. When something feels wrong, you instinctively move toward it. You ask for reassurance. You push for clarity. You explain yourself in detail, hoping logic will restart emotion. You try to provoke a reaction, any reaction, because reaction would mean she still cares. Silence feels unbearable, so you press against it. That instinct is understandable. It's also destructive at this stage. Here's why it fails. You can't resurrect desire by demanding reaction. Desire isn't negotiated. It doesn't respond to pressure. Reaction comes from investment, not obligation. And when you start demanding emotional proof, you expose the imbalance you're trying to hide. You reveal that you're the one chasing stability while she's conserving energy. That dynamic kills whatever polarity remains. When you ask, "Do you still care?" you're not inviting closeness, you're signaling fear. When you say, "We need to talk," without anything concrete changing, you're adding pressure to a system that's already shutting down. When you over-explain your intentions, your loyalty, your love, you're arguing your value instead of embodying it. None of that reawakens investment. It confirms that you're still inside the outcome while she's already stepped back from it. Trying to provoke emotion is the most dangerous move of all. You flirt openly. You hint at attention from others. You create scenarios hoping jealousy will return as proof of attachment. But jealousy doesn't come back on command. If it's gone, provoking doesn't revive it. It proves it's dead. Her lack of reaction to your escalation becomes the final confirmation. And now you've accelerated the emotional distance you were trying to close. Men make this worse because they believe communication fixes everything. But communication only works when both people still want the same outcome. When investment has dropped, communication becomes interrogation. Every question feels like pressure. Every explanation feels like noise. And pressure pushes withdrawal deeper, not closer. The hard insight men resist is this: demands reveal imbalance. The person asking for reassurance is already lower in leverage than the person withholding emotion. The more you ask, the clearer that imbalance becomes. That doesn't create safety. It erodes attraction. This doesn't mean you go cold or manipulative. It means you stop chasing emotional reactions that no longer exist. You don't escalate. You don't collapse. You stop trying to force life back into something that has already gone quiet. Because once confrontation becomes your primary tool, you're no longer responding to desire, you're reacting to its absence. And absence doesn't argue. It withdraws further. What men must learn to read here isn't drama. It's silence. Jealousy is a pulse. It's not always pleasant, but it's alive. And like any pulse, its absence doesn't signal health. It signals that something vital has stopped responding. When jealousy disappears completely, it doesn't mean the relationship has ascended to a higher level of trust. It means emotional circulation has slowed or shut down. You don't celebrate the absence of a heartbeat. You investigate it. The second awareness is where most men get fooled. Calm can be a shutdown. Emotional neutrality isn't peace, it's conservation. When a woman stops reacting, stops correcting, stops adjusting the relationship, she isn't relaxed. She's conserving energy. She's no longer investing it where she doesn't expect return. Peace still has warmth. Shutdown is cool, efficient, minimal. And because it removes friction, you mistake it for stability. But stability without engagement is just stillness. Nothing is being built. Nothing is being protected. This is why you stop listening to what she says and start noticing what she stops doing. She stops asking follow-up questions, stops caring about details that used to matter, stops monitoring dynamics she once instinctively tracked, stops emotionally correcting distance when it appears. No curiosity, no monitoring, no emotional correction. The relationship no longer self-regulates because she's no longer inside it emotionally. Regulation only happens when the outcome still matters. Men often panic here and make the wrong moves. They escalate, trying to force emotion back into the space. Or they collapse, telling themselves this is what secure love looks like. Both reactions miss the signal. The signal isn't hostility, it's absence. You don't revive a pulse by shaking the body, and you don't pretend it's alive because it's quiet. When a woman stops regulating the relationship, she's already disengaging from it. That line isn't meant to scare you, it's meant to ground you. Regulation is effort. It requires care. It requires belief that the bond is worth shaping. When that effort disappears, it means the outcome no longer feels personal. This awareness isn't about suspicion or control. It's about orientation. You don't demand emotion. You don't provoke reactions. You don't talk yourself into comfort. You observe patterns over time. You notice whether engagement returns on its own or whether neutrality becomes the new normal. Because once you learn to read emotional absence accurately, you stop mistaking silence for safety. And that alone protects you from guarding something that has already gone quiet. At the end of all this, the truth doesn't arrive loudly. It settles in, slowly, almost mercifully. Once you stop fighting what you're seeing, some women learn to trust more as they feel safer. Their jealousy softens because attachment deepens. Emotion becomes steadier, warmer, more open. Others don't move in that direction at all. They stop feeling anything. And from the outside, those two states look dangerously similar. Both are quiet. Both stop reacting. Only one is alive. A woman who cares will react. Not perfectly, not calmly every time, but emotionally. She'll correct distance. She'll notice shifts. She'll feel the outcome in her body. A woman who's done will observe. She watches without urgency. She listens without leaning in. She lets things happen without interference. Observation replaces participation when the result no longer feels personal. And that's the moment most men misread as peace. Your responsibility isn't to force emotion back into a dead space. You can't argue someone into caring. You can't communicate attachment back into existence. You can't provoke desire by demanding reaction. Those moves don't revive the bond, they confirm its absence. They turn you into noise in a space that's already gone quiet. And the more you fight the silence, the clearer it becomes that you're the only one still emotionally inside the relationship. The grounding truth here is uncomfortable, Because it removes illusion. Silence isn't always maturity. Calm isn't always trust. Sometimes they're simply the byproduct of disengagement. And when jealousy disappears completely, not into warmth, but into neutrality, it's not evolution, it's exit. Quiet, efficient, unannounced. This isn't about blame, it's about orientation. You don't need to demonize her. You don't need proof of betrayal. You don't even need a confession. Emotional reality announces itself through absence long before it does through action. And once you learn to read that absence accurately, you stop negotiating with ghosts. The most stabilizing thing a man can do is stop lying to himself about what silence means. You don't escalate. You don't collapse. You stand still long enough to see clearly. Because clarity, not control, is what keeps you intact when things go quiet. The final truth is this: it's to recognize when jealousy has turned into indifference and stop mistaking silence for peace. If this feels uncomfortably familiar, you're not imagining it. Subscribe. We talk about the truths men only recognize after it's over.